Hi guys, and welcome back to the Crochet Tour YouTube channel. In today's video I'm bringing you another tutorial in the BT21 series, and this time it's for RJ. Here we go. So yeah, I think this one's really cute, and I quite like the effect that using the fluffy yarn had, although you could just use standard white yarn if you wanted to, but I do think it looks cuter with the fluffy yarn. So yeah, I would say this is kind of like an intermediate level pattern, and as always the written instructions are available on my blog too, which will be linked down below, so you can have that open while you watch this video, or you can just follow the written instructions. But without further ado, let's get into what you'll be needing for this tutorial. For this tutorial you'll be needing aran weight yarn in the following colours, standard white and then also fluffy white, and actually the one that I'm using here is Sardar Snowflake Chunky, so it's technically a chunky weight, however it feels more aran to me, so yeah, I would recommend that one. But you can get other types of fluffy yarn, it doesn't really matter what you use particularly, as long as it's not extremely heavy or extremely light. So that's that. Then you'll also be needing some aran weight yarn in red and brown as well. Then you'll be needing a scrap piece of pink yarn just for adding some cheek details, and then some black embroidery thread for adding like the eyebrows and the mouth. Then you'll need some stuffing. You'll need more than this, but this is just to demonstrate. You'll need some scissors. You could use some pins to help you pin pieces in place when you're sewing it together. That's completely optional and up to you. Then I have here two 4mm safety eyes and a 4mm safety nose, so I'll just show you. This is the nose. You can get these on eBay quite cheap, but if you don't have them you could just use embroidery thread or felt for the eyes and the nose. Then I've got a 4mm crochet hook, I've got my yarn needle, and then I've also got a stitch marker. So that's everything that you'll be needing for this. So we're going to start off with our standard white yarn, and for round one we're just going to do 6 single crochets in a magic circle. Then for round 2 we're just going to increase in each stitch all the way around. So that's the end of round 2. You should have 12 single crochets at the end of the round. Then I'm just going to talk you through the next few rounds until we change to the fluffy white instead of the standard white. So for round 3 it's just single crochet increase, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 18 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 4, 2 single crochet increase, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 24 single crochets at the end of the round. Then round 5, 3 single crochet increase, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 30 single crochets at the end of the round. So on that final single crochet of round 5 we're going to change to our fluffy white, so I'll meet you at that point. So I'm just about to do my final single crochet of round 5, so I'm just going to start that and make sure that I pull through in my fluffy yarn. So, just like that. So now we've changed. And just as a bit of advice, when you're using this fluffy yarn, just be a bit looser, I would say, with your crochet hook. You don't need to pull as tightly when you're using this. So for round 6 we're just going to do 4 single crochet increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. and you're going to repeat that 5 more times. That will get you to the end of round 6. You'll have 36 single crochets at the end of the round. I'm just going to talk you through the next few rounds because again they'll just be standard increases in increments of 6. So for round 7 you're going to do 5 single crochet increase and repeat that 5 more times to get you to 42 single crochets at the end of the round. Then round 8, 6 single crochet increase, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 48 single crochets at the end of the round. So I'll meet you at the end of round 8. So now we've got to the end of round 8. For rounds 9 to 14 we're just going to single crochet all the way around. So I'll meet you at the end of round 14. So I got to the end of round 14 and I decided to add the face details at this point while I still have access to the inside of the head. So all you need to do, well, the way I did it was I just used 2 4mm safety eyes for the eyes, and I used a 4mm safety nose for the nose as well, just to make it a bit easier. But if you don't have these, you can just use felt, or you could use your black embroidery thread. And then all I did was I embroidered a line here, so from under the nose to a couple of stitches below that, and then 2 lines either side, about a couple of stitches either side, and then just 2 eyebrows up here, again a couple of stitches wide each of them, so that hopefully shouldn't be too difficult to do. So the final thing I just need to do then is to add the cheek little details, and I'm using some scrap pink yarn to do that, so I'm just going to quickly do that now. Okay, so once you've done that, that is the face finished, then we can carry on actually doing the remaining crochet for the head. So for round 15 it's 6 single crochet decrease, and repeat that 5 more times to get you to 42 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 16, 5 single crochet decrease, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 36 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 17, 4 single crochet decrease, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 30 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 18, 3 single crochet decrease, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 24 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 19, 2 single crochet decrease, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 18 single crochets at the end of the round. And I'll meet you at the end of round 19, as this is when I'm going to add some stuffing. So I've reached the end of round 19 and I've just added some stuffing, as you can see here, so you want to stuff fairly firmly. And now we've just got 2 rounds left to do. So for round 20 we're just going to single crochet decrease and repeat that 5 more times to get us down to 12 single crochets at the end of the round. Then round 21 just decrease all the way around and get you down to 6 single crochets. So I'll meet you at the end of round 21. So I just got to the end of round 21 and now I'm just going to close up this hole here. So if you just cut your yarn, leaving just a short tail, so you can do that. Then we're just going to weave the yarn tail through each of those final 6 single crochets. Don't worry if you're not too neat doing this. I know it's hard to kind of see the loops when you're using more fashion yarn like this. So yeah, the good thing with this type of yarn is also that you can't really see if you've made mistakes throughout the rounds, really, unless they're big mistakes. So I guess that's one of the good things about using this. But anyway, I'm just gonna weave that through all of those 6 single crochets. Then I'm gonna pull tight. So that hole is now pretty much closed up. And I'm just gonna feed that yarn tail through to any random point, really. And then I'll just cut that. So this is the head that we have now. So now we can move on to making some other parts of RJ. So the next thing we're going to move on to making is these little head fluff pieces, I call them. And we're going to need to make 8 of these in total, and they're going to go round the head like this. And we are just going to leave this little gap at the bottom free so that we can sew that down to the body once we've made that. So yeah, I hope you can kind of see how this is going to be sewn down. So I've already made 7 of these, so I'm just going to make the final one with you now. So yeah, obviously we need to make 8 of them in total. So we're going to make these with our fluffy yarn, and we're going to start off by doing 8 single crochets into a magic circle. And I would recommend that you mark the first one, just because it's a bit harder to see with this type of yarn where exactly you've started the round. So I'm just grabbing a scrap piece of yarn in a contrasting colour just to make it very clear. So this is the first single crochet, and then we need to do 7 more. Okay, and now we need to close up the hole. Now I would pull quite gently when you do this with this particular type of yarn, because otherwise it might snap. So just pull gently, keep going until that hole is closed up. So you can see the hole is now closed up, so I'm happy with that. So that's round 1, and then for round 2 we're going to do 2 increases to start with. So we're going to increase in this stitch. And I'm just keeping the stitch marker in just to make it very clear to myself where I need to go into. So 1, 2. So that's the first increase, and I'm going to just move the stitch marker. See, as you can see, it is quite difficult to see where exactly the crochets are for this type of yarn. So okay. So that was our first increase. Then we're going to do another increase. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets. Then we're going to do another increase. Another increase. And then 2 single crochets. So at the end of round 2 you should have 12 single crochets now all the way around. For rounds 3 and 4 you're just going to single crochet all the way around, so I'll meet you when you've done that. So I finished round 4 and this is what it's looking like. So now we just need to cut our yarn, leaving a bit of a tail for sewing. And then you can just pull the yarn tail through gently, and you can just tuck that little tail in there. And there we go. So yeah, just make sure that you make 8 of these in total, and then come back and we can start sewing them around the head together. I'm going to start sewing one of these down with you, so just position it where you want. You could use pins if you like, but I'm personally not going to do that. And then I'm just going to be probably whip stitching all the way around. So I'm just going to go into the fluff piece and into a stitch on the head. You don't really need to be too precise with this, because the fluffiness of this yarn kind of covers up any messiness really in the sewing that you're doing, so I wouldn't be so specific about which loops you're going into. Just kind of have a feel for what is kind of around the same stitch that you're going into, and just use those stitches. So as you can see, I'm just going to keep going around like that, and just before I get to the end I'll probably add a little bit of stuffing, so I'll meet you when I get to that point just to show you. I've nearly sewn all the way around now, and I'm just going to add a very small amount of stuffing. You could probably get away with not adding any at all, to be honest, but just to be on the safe side I'll probably add a bit, and then I'll just finish sewing all the way around so I don't have too many stitches left to go. Okay, so that's that one finished, and then all I'm going to do is just feed the yarn tail through to the back, and then I'll just snip that a bit later. So I'm just going to carry on doing that all the way around, so I'm just going to keep going like this, so kind of 4 either side of the, sorry, my hand was in the way there, 4 either side of the head, and then just leave this gap at the bottom here, as I mentioned, so that we can actually sew the body down when we get to that point. So yeah, I will meet you when you've finished sewing all those pieces down. I finished sewing down all the head fluff pieces, and this is what it looks like now. So the next thing we can do is move on to making the 2 little ears that will go between these fluffs. So one will go here and one will go here. So let's do that now. I've already made one of the ears, as you can see. It's just a simple small piece. So to start off with, we're just going to do 4 single crochets in a magic circle. And as always, because we're using the fluffy yarn, I am going to mark the first single crochet just to help me know where the round starts. So that's 1. Now we just need to do 3 more. And then I'm just going to close up this hole by pulling on the tail, and as I said before, just be quite gentle with this because you can snap the yarn. Okay, so that's closed up enough. So now we just need to do 3 rounds of single crocheting all the way around, so that'll be rounds 2 to 4, and I'll meet you when you finish that, and then we can sew these to the head. So I got to the end of round 4, and now I'm just going to cut my yarn, leaving a bit of a tail for sewing. And now I have 2 ears like this. So all we're going to do once we have these is just sew these, as I mentioned, behind some of the head fluffs, so roughly here I would say, like this. Oops, sorry, like this. So that's the next thing that I'm going to do, and I'm only going to be sewing them exactly the same way as I did for the head fluff, so I won't bother showing you that again. So I'll come back once I've finished sewing those 2 pieces down, and then we're basically done with the head, so then we can move on to making the body and all the other pieces like the arms and legs. So yeah, I'll meet you once I've sewn those ears down. I've now sewn down the ears, as you can see, so 1 on either side. So now let's move on to making the body. For the body, we're using our fluffy yarn again, and we're going to start off by doing 6 single crochets in a magic circle. So that is the end of round 1. I'm just going to talk you through the remaining rounds because they're basically the same rounds that we did for the head. So for round 2, you're going to increase all the way around. That's going to get you to 12 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 3, single crochet increase, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 18 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 4, 2 single crochet increase, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 24 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 5, 3 single crochet increase, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 30 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 6 to 13, single crochet all the way around. Round 14, 3 single crochet decrease, repeat that 5 more times to get you to 24 single crochets at the end of the round. Then finally round 15, single crochet all the way around, so I'll meet you at the end of round 15. So I got to the end of round 15, and now we just need to cut the yarn, leaving quite a long tail for sewing. And once you've done that, then we can sew this to the head. So let me just pull this tail through. So the next thing we're going to do is just sew this to the head like that. So I'm going to get started and show you me starting that off. So I'm going to show you me doing it at a slightly different angle, just because this is how I would actually sew it down if I wasn't filming, and it's just more comfortable for me. So I did forget to mention, by the way, obviously you need to stuff this body, so do that now if you haven't already. But I prefer not to use pins when I'm sewing down big pieces, so I'm not going to use any, but you might want to if it helps you to keep things in place. And basically I'm just going to be whip stitching around, kind of like how I've done for the other sewing parts so far. Just going to pull that through, go into the next stitch, and the next stitch, so I think you kind of get the idea, so I'm just going to do that all the way around and I'll meet you when I've finished that. I finished sewing the body all the way around and this is what it's now looking like, so I'm just going to feed that yarn tail through to a random stitch and then I'm going to just cut that. So now we can move on to making the arms. So the arms and legs are worked in the same pattern, so I've made 3 already here. I'm just going to make the 4th one now, so you need to make 4 of these. So to start off with, we're going to use our brown yarn this time, and we're going to start by doing 4 single crochets in a magic circle. So that's the end of round 1. Then for round 2 we're going to do just single crochet all the way around, but on the last single crochet you're going to want to pull through in your fluffy white because we're going to be changing to white. So this is 1, 2, 3, and then this is the 4th one where we need to change to white. So I'm just going to get my white. So that is the end of round 2. Then for round 3 we're going to do a single crochet to start with. So in this, I need to pull that to tighten it again. In this stitch here we're going to do a single crochet. And now I'm going to mark that. Then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. Then a single crochet in the next stitch. And then an increase in the final stitch. So that's the end of the 3rd round. You should have 6 single crochets at the end of the round. You can obviously cut your brown yarn now because we don't need that anymore. And then for rounds 4 and 5, so for 2 more rounds, you're just going to single crochet all the way around, so 6 single crochets each round. So yeah, I'll meet you at the end of round 5. So I've got to the end of round 5 and now I'm just going to cut my yarn, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. Obviously going to take the stitch marker out, and this tail I'm just going to push it inside. You could cut it, but you can kind of almost use it as if it's stuffing, a little bit of stuffing. So yeah, that's that. So now I have my 2 arms and 2 legs. As I mentioned, obviously these are the exact same pattern, so it doesn't really matter which one to use for which part. Now I'm going to show you how to sew them to the body. So I've already sewn one arm down, as you can see here, and I've decided to kind of put them in front of the body like this, because I think it looks quite cute doing it like that. But you could put them at the sides if you want to, but yeah, this is how I'm going to do it. So there's no like real neat method to this. I just literally do some whip stitches in around the stitches that look about the right positioning for it, and then yeah, I see what it looks like, and then if I don't like it, I'll just unpick it and try again. So I'll just show you what I'm doing. And then to keep this little bit in place, the end of the arm, I'm gonna just sew a couple of stitches down probably there. So I'm just pulling my yarn through, and then I'm gonna sew just like that. So now we can move on to sewing the legs down. I've already sewn one of the legs down, I'm just going to do the other one now. I'm just sewing them quite close to each other at the bottom of the body. Sorry if you can hear my tummy, I'm hungry. Okay, so I'm going to just check the positioning of that. I think it's okay, but it needs a little bit more sewing down. So on the other side, I kind of sewed around twice, so I'm probably going to do about the same thing here, because as you can see, this leg looks longer than this leg at the moment, so we need to kind of pick some of these other stitches and sew them down a bit to shorten the length of the leg. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing. And as with the arms, there was really no like special technique for this. I just try my best. Just trying to pull that tail through, it's got a bit stuck. Don't know what's happened there, give me 1 second. I actually can't work out what happened with that, why the tail's gone like this. There must be some sort of knot somewhere, but oh well, I'm just going to carry on. I'm nearly finished now anyway, so. I'm just going to have a look at that. Okay, now they look a lot more the same length. Hopefully you can kind of see what I mean by that. So I think I'm probably happy with that, so I'll just feed that tail through to the back and then snip it. So now that we've finished the arms and the legs, there's only a couple more bits left to make. So I think the next thing we'll make is the little like neckerchief, I think you would call it, with our red yarn. So let's move on to that now. So for the neckerchief, you're going to start off by chaining 28, because this is worked in rows. And then you're just going to, from the second chain from hook, single crochet across. So that should be 27 in total. You can either work into the front loops or the back loops, doesn't really matter. I'm actually going to pick the front loops this time. And I am just going to try and hide the tail by crocheting over it. You don't have to do this, but it just makes life a bit easier. So that will be the end of the first row, and you should have 27 single crochets across. So we're nearly done now actually, we just need to do row 2, which is kind of like a partial row. We're not going all the way across. So you're just going to chain 1, turn, and you're going to start off by doing, sorry, just getting some more yarn. You're going to start off by doing 6 slip stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to do 2 single crochets. Then you're going to do a half double crochet. Then you're going to do a double crochet. Then you're going to do another half double crochet. And that is that. So now you're going to cut your yarn, leaving a fairly long tail because we're going to need to use this for sewing. So this looks a bit weird when you look at it, but if you put it round the neck like this, then hopefully you can see. Maybe I should zoom out a bit actually. Hopefully you can see how this is gonna work. So we're just gonna sew these bits here together, and then obviously now you've got your kind of triangular shape that's on the neckerchief without having to actually like fold kind of like a rectangle. I think that's how you would normally tie a neckerchief. I don't know, I've never worn one. So yeah, so the next thing that we're gonna do is, in fact, to be honest, one thing you could have done if you were a bit more clever than me is maybe left a long tail at the start of your foundation chain, but oh well, it's too late now, so we're going to have to use this tail instead to sew. So you just kind of want to make sure that this goes all the way to the end of your work, so you could just weave it in and out of these stitches, or you could just kind of, let me think, because it's going to be this way round, so we want to do everything in the back. I'm just going to kind of weave this back to the end. Okay, so now this should be in a position ready for us to sew this round the neck, so I'll probably just show you me doing that now. I want to leave like a little bit of this bit still sticking out, because that's how RJ looks when you look at a picture of him. Yep, I'm happy with how that looks, so I'm probably just going to leave it there. You could keep going if you wanted to, make it very secure, but I think that's probably going to be enough. So I will just feed that through to a stitch that's hiding underneath the neckerchief, and then I'll just cut that. You shouldn't be able to see it. So now there's only one final step left to do, and that is just the tail, and that's really quick and easy, so let's do that quickly now and then we're done. For the tail, we're going to start off by doing 5 single crochets in a magic circle for round 1 using our fluffy white yarn. See, that can happen sometimes when you try and pull the tail to close up the holes. You just have to try and be gentle. There we go, got it this time. Okay, so now we're just going to single crochet around for round 2, and that is it. So that's it, that's just going to be the little tail there. So now we can cut our yarn, and then we just need to sew this to the back of RJ, and then we're done. So then that's your little tail there, and I'm just gonna again feed the yarn tail through to a random stitch and then just cut it. So that is it. So now I'll show you the finished RJ. So this is what RJ looks like when he's finished. So this is the front, and then that is the back with the little tail there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.